Hey, everybody. Really excited for this chat today on the future of video marketing with insights from a true innovator in the field. Chris from Wistia, how are you?
I'm good, Evan. How are you?
I'm doing great on a slightly rainy day here in Boston. Thank goodness we need the rain.
We need it bad.
Really excited for this chat and fascinated by the work you and the team at Wistia are doing. Let's start with introduction as always to yourself, a little bit about your journey, and for those who may not be familiar, who is Wistia?
Yeah, so my name is Chris Savage. Started Wistia with my best friend, Brendan Schwartz, in 2006. So I've been doing this for 18 years. And Wistia today is a video marketing platform. So hosting, player, all custom, all tailored to you so that you can control the experience around your videos. Analytics, so you can understand how people are watching your videos, what they're skipping, what they're rewatching. You could take that data and then, of course, put it into marketing automation platforms like HubSpot so you can actually get lead scoring and audience intelligence. And then we have a whole suite of tools, and we've really been transforming the business in the last 4 years. So today we have editing tools, recording tools, solo and group. We have a webinar platform. And the whole vision is that, like, we've talked to a lot of marketers and a lot of people who are making a lot of content. And they're basically like, I have to use video at work like almost every day. And I use like 15 different tools to do it. I'm barely staying on top of it. Please, can you help us? And our vision is to make it so easy and simple by integrating all these things seamlessly together that you get a lot of time back and you get a lot of efficiency. And ultimately you get to do a lot of the details you need to do in marketing day to day that can be hard to do when it's just one or two people making it happen.
Brilliant. Well, I need all of that, but that's another discussion. On this topic for the enterprise, I mean, you've been around for a while. What was the vision when you started? How has it evolved? What's driving you these days?
Yeah, so the vision at the beginning was pretty simple. It was seeing online video and seeing YouTube specifically and watching online video take off. And it was really interesting because my background was in film and video. So I had short films to show off. And I was part of filmmaking communities. And they were not that active. Like, put your movie up there and, oh, do people like it? And it was a lot more discussion, not as much content. And then one of the things that was so interesting about YouTube was that it was just anyone could upload content and it all worked. It would all play back. And at that time, up until that moment, basically flash video, having broadband, open source tools to do the encoding, it was actually hard to get someone to see a video on the web. So we saw that and we're like, this is going to be big. And our first idea is not where we ended up. It was like our first idea was making a filmmaking competition website that turned
Mm.
into a portfolio website for artists and a few other things. And it took us about a year to figure out, oh, wait a second, there's companies who are just starting to use video and they need help, and it's got to be easy for them to use video. And often video is not like their whole job, like it's a part of what they do. And so we found that in 2007, and that part has stayed completely true. The thing that has changed so tremendously is just what it takes to make a video, how much it costs to make a video. And I mean, it's absolutely night and day different today than it was back then.
Yeah, it's a real revolution. I don't use that word lightly. I feel like a one-man media company myself, which is phenomenal. And yet there's so many video platforms, tools, APIs out there. It's very confusing for customers and users. So how do you think about yourself in this landscape, and what are you doing differently or better than? And because companies seem to be coming back to you.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the way we look at it is like there's so much new tech, there's so much new AI today, and a lot of it's really amazing. But the truth is also there's a lot of over promising and under delivering, in my opinion, where it's like you promise the moon to get people to try your thing. And then it doesn't, if it's close, but it doesn't actually deliver, then people can't use it. And our idea and what we've been really doing is saying like, okay, it's our job to actually test these things, understand which of these reliably give you great results, and then
Mm.
take that and bring it into your existing workflow in such a way that it just instantly saves you time. An example is like forever, we've had the ability to have captions on your video in Wistia. Obviously, people need captions. And we had the ability to help you get the captions created. We had a version that did like voice to text. That was the kind of pre-AI versions of this. It was okay, but not that accurate. And you could actually pay through Wistia to get perfectly human transcribed versions of your video. That was expensive. And then as the AI transcription started to get incredibly good, we realized like, hey, we don't have to charge this anymore. It can be free. Okay. So we started including it in all videos. Then we realized, okay, it's so good and it is free. We should actually change how we think about what a video is on a page, because it's not just like a player anymore. It's actually the text data that is inside the video. So we
Mm.
can use that and we can give you things like chapters. So you just say generate chapters and it starts making chapters. This is an interesting point because like you can go in Wistia today, you can generate chapters, but we didn't want to make that the default unless we actually thought the chapters were good. Because otherwise we're gonna make every video worse. We're gonna like give you a bunch of bad data. So what we do is we iterate on the prompts and we look at how people are using that. We iterate on the background and change out providers and stuff. And then once we feel like something is really works really well consistently, we make it the default. And so if you go and look in Wistia today, you'll see a lot of stuff like this, where you have chapters, we have translations between different languages of captions, we have
Mm.
the AI titles, AI descriptions, AI tags, a lot of the busy work and stuff that comes with that, and just trying to like reduce it for you as much as possible. Another example of something that you can do in Wistia today that's truly driven by this is we have the ability to make social clips. We have a social clip creation tool for long
Mm.
form video. And there's been a few iterations to get to this moment, but the way it's now works is it's a bespoke interface for this. We are actually pretty happy with the clips that it pulls out, that they have a good hook at the beginning of them. And they have to try to deliver on the meat of the hook and a few other things. And then you can go through and you can switch the brand and look and feel of the captions and things. And it's all very, very simple. It's like a very basic interface, actually. But behind the scenes is all the power. And then we look at that as like, how many of those clips does somebody make? Do they actually use? And as that gets higher, we can start making the clips for you automatically. And so there's tons and tons of things like that in Wistia today.
That's amazing to see how AI is impacting video creation and marketing. And clearly, you're at the forefront of that. What does that look like behind the scenes? Maybe you can give us some insight on the tools, the techniques, the technologies that you're leveraging to get more out of video, and what's involved with all of that. It's quite a fast-moving, day-to-day
It's very
kind of
fast
environment.
moving. Yeah. So we had a call to make a couple of years ago and we said, hey, do we want an AI specific team at Wistia
Mm.
or not? And we made the call. No, we're not going to have one specific team. We're going to tell all teams, like all product teams and the whole company, we believe that there's going to be so much productivity and so many kind of magical things that can be done with AI that we actually need everyone evaluating it for every use case. And there's so much investment, innovation happening in AI. So literally so many dollars going into it that it's also causing the cost of these things to drop tremendously. And so what it looks like day to day is different teams trying different tools and saying like, how reliable is this result?
Mm.
Is the data that this came from something that actually can be used in like an enterprise fashion or not? Like all of these different questions. And then I think the thing that we forget often is like, not only can you do something in a proof of concept and deliver it, but can it be at a cost where it can actually be done at scale for every action you want, in our case, like manipulating videos and stuff. And so as the competitors get out there, like OpenAI and Claude and all these different folks, to trying to get better APIs and better systems, we basically look at it in the same way that we looked at CDNs back in the day,
Mm.
which was they're pretty close and they're probably going to get closer and closer. So a lot what ends up happening is whoever can get the most scale cuts their price and tries to get even more folks using it. And actually, that's a really important thing for us who are building, because sometimes the difference between being able to make something a default or not is literally the price. And that changes the uses and all the other things. And so, yeah, it's just a lot of iteration and a lot of testing and a lot of hackathons. And I mean, it's really fun. I think that's the big thing. It's really fun.
It sounds like it, indeed. Let's talk customers. Who are your ideal customers? Are there certain industries or customer sizes? And, how do you get inside their head to find out what they want you to build or shape or deliver next?
Yeah, wow, good question. Our ideal customers are small and medium-sized businesses. So that's from like solopreneurs to like 1,000-person organizations is like how we
Mm,
think about it. The way we get in their heads is we talk to them a lot.
mm.
and,
Shocking.
it's a shocking thing. It's actually easy to not do. This is like a warning for entrepreneurs out there. Is like the early days, you have your shared email coming in and you're looking at all the feedback for people and the support requests. And it's kind of hard to miss what the customers are saying. Like they're like, you launch your thing, they complain. You launch your thing, they like it. It's not that hard. As you get bigger and you have to scale and you have systems, you can't look at every single email. You can't listen to every call. One person can't do it. So the collective information that comes in is put in different places. And so you have to try really hard to build systems that get you back to the place I think that you often were at the beginning, which is a very close like pulse on what people actually want. And
Mm,
so it's like looks like a lot of different things to try to like zero in on what's working. Um, and I mean, I can rattle them off. It's like NPS to people who are starting out, NPS to people who have been with us for a while. It's like
mm,
sales calls, looking at sales calls, and like what do people notice and why do they say they're coming, and and especially looking at like why do people not sign up? What are we missing? Our PMs are constantly doing research directly with customers. We have a formalized beta program so people can pop their way into that. We look at like usage data relative to NPS, relative to plant. We look at so much different data, but ultimately the basic unit of all of this data is each person's individual experience. And I think like that it is a gift that people share that with us. And actually that's the thing if you see me doing events and you see me like doing talks, I always tell people like, please actually give us feedback. And like you can send me feedback directly if you're using Wistia and you have a problem or you really like something, you can email me, you can find my email, you can contact me on LinkedIn. And I actually want to hear it because that's actually how we make the calls. It's kind of simple, but yeah, I'm going to stop myself before I go further.
I could listen all day, but I'm sure the viewers would probably tune out after a long
Yeah. Chris
speaking
went for 4 hours on that. That was impressive. That's like,
we're
okay.
not Joe Rogan here, let's
Yeah.
put it that way. Speaking of telling stories, you help brands tell stories better with video. That's sort of your tagline. Sadly, in my world, a lot of the B2B storytelling is pretty boring and self-promotional. So how do you think storytelling can be more powerful for businesses? What are your words of wisdom there?
I think the thing is that I don't think anything needs to be boring. I think we forget, like, especially in B2B, that if you're helping somebody
Mm,
with your product or your service in B2B, you are doing something that is actually very directly helping them with like a core thing that most people want,
mm,
which is like they want a promotion, they want their company to grow, they want more money, like they want credibility. If you can help somebody in B2B, it actually could very quickly translate to, oh, I use this product and we had this breakthrough. Now my team's growing. Now my company's growing. Now I
mm.
have more responsibility. And like that's a really big deal. And yes, I'm sure there's people who don't want to advance in their career. I don't think you should probably optimize for them in terms of like who you're marketing to and selling things to. But I think the successful B2B, the people who are playing successful in the B2B world are obviously trying to help people with that. And I think we forget how much that matters. The other thing about telling great stories is like you got to have drama. And so I think it's good to have drama, and you should try to find what drama you're actually comfortable with. What tension matters, and if you can set up the big problem in your market, the big problem in your space, and help people understand the stakes of that problem, and then you can actually deliver your solution. It can basically be anything. It can be I'm gonna say I don't know why this is what I'm thinking of picking as an example, but it could be like in a canning facility that
Mhm.
makes cans for drinks, and it's like, okay, that may not sound that exciting, but like if you have different models of the cans you can make, if you have different sizes of the things you can make, if you can do it more efficiently, if you can do it in a green way, if you can do it in a way that people haven't seen before, if you can do it in a way that keeps things fresh for longer, any of those things can be you can pick a battle, any of those ideas, and create an enemy and create some tension of like what happens if what happens if your stuff doesn't stay fresh, or what happens if it spoils for longer, or what happens if it doesn't deliver on your promise? People are like, oh God, I don't know. And then you deliver, on the tension that you've built. So yeah, I would say recognize that B2B doesn't actually need to be boring. In fact, it can really impact people's lives. And then like when you're telling stories, find ways of getting the right tension and drama into them to get people to actually pay attention and care.
Oh, wonderful insight. So I came across you at Inbound. So you're a keen watcher of video marketing trends, but also you're a trendsetter yourself. What are some of the key trends you're watching and monitoring, and what do you suggest businesses stay ahead of in terms of what's next?
Yeah, I think one big one is I think B2B influencers and creators is a real thing now.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
Yeah,
What's this one here?
obviously. Yeah, it's a very real thing for you. It's a real thing for me. But I think a lot of B2B companies have not actually considered this yet. And they don't, and part of the reason is like it just took a little bit longer per usual for people to figure out like, hey, what are the topics that I can keep teaching, explaining, showcasing examples of that are going to be relevant to enough people that it makes sense for me to keep doing it, but also is on topics that other people would want to like advertise to. And so I think seems like it's really starting to happen. And I think like this is the moment to find those people who are figuring this out and really passionate about your space, to connect with them and see if you can partner with them, make content with them, sponsor them, endorse them, all the things you could do. I think that like on the AI side, there, as I mentioned before, there's been a lot of over promising and under delivering. What I'm
Mm,
noticing is more things starting to deliver. But if you talk to like the average person, even I'm going to say the average person in tech, most people don't know which things are delivering yet. It's like because they're tired. I think that people are tired from testing and testing and testing. So I think if you do have things that actually deliver, or you found tools that actually deliver, again, you're going to have like a head start on anyone if you can leverage those things today. Um, just like anything, if you can be just a few months ahead, you can be the expert, and that can like have like a huge influence. Um, and then I think I'm going to give a video one, which is in the last few years, we've watched the expectations change around who is being asked to make video and where we want to see video. And it very much used to be the case like pre-COVID that like if you wanted a lot of videos at work, that was probably going to be a video producer helping you to make them. A lot of concern around brand, and things have really flipped towards like not only accepting authentic content, but people searching for it. Things have flipped where audiences expect on every topic that they will be able to find a video version to explain to them how to
mm.
do something. And they also expect that anyone can make a video. And so that is a very different world. And I think it's like videos become this expectation, but also like making great and effective video is still really hard. And so I just encourage people to try to lean in really hard right now to like, where are the places you can use video at work for you? How can you tell better stories, and how can you better meet what audiences are asking for? And it seems like this is a trend that was coming, and now like the wave is hitting us. And so it feels like the moment to pick your head up if you haven't been using video and figure it out.
Yeah, the time is now, as always. But pre-pandemic, I hated video. I was a blogger and active on social, but I just
Yeah,
didn't like it. And I hired a video coach, and this woman for 6 months, we worked together,
that's amazing.
and it was amazing because you just don't know what you don't know, and it was really eye-opening, particularly in the field. It's very difficult. It's not just about getting a gimbal and going out there. There's so much to learn, and you don't need a coach. You can go on YouTube and find out best practices and tips and tricks. So really great advice. The other difficulty in this space is measuring success.
Mhm.
You know, ROI on video can be tricky. Usually with my clients, it's okay, here's how many impressions on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook,
Mhm.
Instagram, Twitter, and that's where the conversation ends. That's kind of ungratifying or unsatisfying in some way, although they're
Yeah.
pretty happy. So how do you make it easier for businesses to look at ROI, measure it, or figure out what's working or not working?
Yeah. So I think like the deeper in the funnel you get, the more you can see the direct impact, obviously. You can use something like Wistia and tie the analytics, and you can just see like, okay, show me everyone who converted, how many videos they watch.
Mm.
You can know basically that video moved the needle. I do think the way that most people evaluate video is in the context of whatever job they're trying to do. So to your point, like if you're trying to make video on social, the thing what everyone ends up doing is looking at like, okay, how many views are we actually getting? Are they organic or not? And are people sticking with it? And if people are sticking with it, and you're getting a lot of organic views, you've probably done something right. And um, it's going to be the details of like the qualitative feedback of how can you iterate going forward. If you go and look at like a lot of the YouTubers who have built really big audiences, they're looking second by second at where people leave and what keeps them engaged, and even cues that signal to somebody like, hey, you should stick with us or not. Like an example would be, we've seen this in Wistia data. You'll see it at scale. But if you ever give someone a signal that you're wrapping up accidentally, and now for our last thing, or like, thank you so much, or we need to do this, or like any like signal, people usually turn it off at that exact moment, even if you're like halfway through. And so there's a lot of things that you'll pick up when you match like the engagement data with what's actually happening in the video. And so I look at it as like, if you're going to be optimizing for social and you're optimizing for brand, you're really competing against like brand ad views of your own. So how much would you have to spend on that? How many views would you get? And then you can look at the organic side and do the math. And it's kind of simple. Like you should just put the money where it works better for you. And just like with any, let's say on the brand example, what should happen with most brand spend is like you change your awareness and your affinity in your market, and eventually that shows up as like traffic on your website and signups. And so the other way to get the signal is actually on signup, say, where did you hear about us? Really simple. And I can tell you, we did that way too late in the history of Wistia. And when people actually fill out a form, like a blank text form, and tell you where they heard about you, you learn very rapidly things that can often be very hard to learn otherwise.
It's amazing. Yeah, surveys are amazing. Any feedback is incredible. So there's this ongoing debate, discussion around short versus long form content. What is short? What is long form? My view is it's all good, all the above. It's not one or the other. It's both and everywhere all at once. But how do you think about, short versus long
Yeah.
form, and how do you, as a business, decide what is right for them?
I think short form is to attract attention and long form is to retain it.
Mm.
So I think you want to look at what problem do you have. If you're getting a lot of eyeballs already, but they're not converting and sticking around, like probably long form is what you should be investing in. If you're having trouble getting people to pay attention to what you're doing at all, you should be experimenting with short term. I think the thing that's crazy is like how much short form has changed. Like this is what we see in our data. So we have this like state of video report that we usually release Q1 every year. And in the data this year, you see some interesting things like actually people are much more comfortable today watching much longer form content than they used to.
Mm.
But also the first touch with most content and most brands is shorter than it's like ever been.
Mm.
Right. So, and it makes sense if you think about it, like we have all these vertical video scrolling apps, TikTok, LinkedIn now has a video field, like Instagram, and you're swiping and you're giving things less than a second. And then you find something that oh, I like this. This is interesting. Like this is funny. It's interesting. It's entertaining, or it's educational, or whatever. And then you stick with it. Now, if you run into that same person or brand again, you start thinking it's like their face is the branding. And it's like, oh, I know this face. Like I trust this face. This person seems like they know what they're talking about. Often what you'll see is that then ultimately translates into what else did they do? And you go and you search like, oh, I wonder if they're good in like a long form format. If I'm learning a lot in like a 10-second, 30-second video, maybe I'd learn a ton in an hour. And you go watch a long form thing. And if it actually delivers, you think, man, this person really knows what they're doing. And usually if you have that experience, you've just found someone who is either has a massive audience or someone who is about to have a massive audience. And it's just like the way that our world works. Like we start short form and it becomes long form And I think ultimately what this does is I'm a big believer in like trying to look back at a very long period of time and then understand what things are the same, what things are different. So I think for a very long time, we've relied on our networks for word of mouth, right? Like you have your friend who's the techie. If you have tech questions, you ask them. You have a friend who's a skateboarder. If you're going to buy a skateboard, you're going to ask them. You have a friend who's a biker and they always are biking around. You're going to ask them about bike stuff, right? All that's happened is that these relationships that used to be just in person, our local communities, are now also online.
Mm.
And you might only have experiences with some of these people online that are like minutes a day, if that, 1 minute a day to 10 minutes a week, something. But if there's some little niche thing that you really trust somebody on, just like if you trust a friend in person, they might text that friend in person. You might go to that person online and look at what they're doing or ask them, and they give you a recommendation. You actually trust them, and that's basically what's happening. It's just like it's parasocial versus actually meeting people around us day to day. And I think there's like actually a ton of benefit to that because you might never have been exposed to people who have these other interests or these other expertise that you can learn from. And so it's like very exciting in that respect. But I think it's back to a behavior we know already, which is just like we trust word of mouth and filter things through it. And it's just another form of doing that.
Yeah, wonderful insight. Of course, great video content means great audio content, and it's so easy now to auto deploy an audio version of your video. This conversation will be pushed out to 30 different podcast players, all the usual suspects, and I get great engagement. I personally listen to podcasts, in my ear all day long. So it's multiple opportunities to leverage and reuse. What's next for you and the team as you head into the year end, early next year? What are you excited about personally, professionally? What's on your mind as we, head into 2025?
Yeah, I mean, so Wistia is going to keep doing what we're doing, which is like we are shipping really fast, and just advancing the platform, trying to create as much value as we can. That's what I love doing. I love solving like hard problems which require creative solutions with like people I care about. So work is like not any different, and I love that. That's actually great. Personally, I'm excited to like recharge it with the fam. I'm very excited that Gladiator 2 is coming out, so I'm going to go
Woohoo!
see that. And a few other my kids in particular are very into musicals, so we'll be going to see Wicked and stuff too. So I'm
The
excited about
big
that too.
weekend.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good content out there to see.
Indeed. Well, thanks so much for sharing the vision and mission. And everyone, check out Wistia. Really a fascinating solution. Thanks for listening and watching. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Evan. Good to see you.